Great. So how many of you are raw foodists or new to raw food? Let's start with new to raw foods. Very good. Very good. Okay. How many people have had raw food for the first time tonight? Excellent. I guess we've all had some kind of raw food, but in this kind of setting. Now, how many people have been working with raw foods for a while now? And, okay, great. So I'm here to talk about tonight about my journey through raw foods. And it's been a very interesting journey because it's really, you know, when you tell people raw foods, they think, are you eating sushi every day? Or what is it? What is this raw food thing? So, but it's a concept that's actually been around for so many years. And I remember when I was a little girl, well, a teenager rather, and I picked up a book called Back to Eden. Has anyone read the book Back to Eden? Or heard of it? And it talks about going back to nature and going back to foods and connecting. Now, I remember just, you know, I come from a dance background, and I remember after ballet class, my friend and I would go to McDonald's, and we would just eat a Big Mac, large fries, huge Coke, and then a bag of chips. You know, and this is what we lived on, and it was delicious, and Kentucky Fried Chicken and all these things. And then I read this book, Back to Eden, and I was like, huh, food comes from the earth. Huh, very interesting. You know, it nurtures our bodies, and that the food can actually be healing and can cure a lot of different ailments. So my journey actually really started with my parents, and a lot of you have heard the story, so bear with me, please. I have some wonderful friends and clients here, and they've heard the story, but for those of you who haven't heard it, very briefly, my father his parents came from Jamaica. I'm from Toronto. He was orphaned when he was a little boy, and he basically was raised by his aunt, and they were impoverished, they had nothing, and he put himself through med school, and he became the first black chief of surgery in Canada. But more importantly, he was a pioneer of gastric bypass surgery. Have you heard of that? For the morbidly obese? And I used to work in his office in the summers when I was a teenager, and I used to hear the stories of people struggling with gastric bypass, with obesity, and I'd write up their charts, and they'd talk about they've been through every kind of diet possible, they've just tried everything, and they were going to die if they didn't lose weight. And so this wasn't for cosmetic reasons, this was because their hearts could not handle the weight. And so that really opened my eyes to the disparity of people struggling with issues, particularly obesity. And then I'd come back the next summer, and I'd see them, and they lost 300 pounds. And they were different people. They would be full of joy, and they'd have this new lease on life, and they'd have energy, and they'd look 20 years younger, and it was just amazing and so exciting, and it just really planted a huge seed for me that people can actually change. They can take control of their health and their wellness. And so that's where the seed planted. And then there was my mother, who was a nurse, and then she raised us 4 kids, and she was very, very busy in the community, and she became a politician. She was a human rights commissioner, she was on the status of women, and she was an agent of change. No matter what, she always was very gracefully determined to help others change. She had she has just a very subtle demeanor, very warm, very friendly, but I wouldn't mess with her. I'm just warning you right now. she's pretty amazing. So that planted a seed in me also to say, wow, you know, we can really, really change. We can if we believe in it. And it's like sometimes we feel, you know, there's so much going on in the world, and we just feel like it's just hopeless. feels hopeless to make change, especially when it comes to ourselves sometimes, right? We've been in that position where we want to make change, we want to lose weight, or we want to make more money, and it just feels kind of hopeless. So I've always been inspired by this. So when I was growing up, I was very blessed to have these wonderful parents and wonderful aunts and uncles and a great, great family. Did I appreciate it? No, not always. I was a little bit stubborn growing up, and I liked to go to the school of hard knocks. Knock your head against the wall a little bit, don't listen. So I was a little rebellious, and I found myself going down a path. I took a left-hand turn, and I went far from home, from my core values, from who I was, and part of it, I understand, was really, it had to do with my self-esteem, because I grew up in a neighborhood that there were absolutely no other people of color. It was a very wealthy neighborhood, and the only people of color, I would be playing in houses that had bowling alleys in them. It was amazing. But the only other people of color were the maids. So it was a kind of an interesting, identity shift. And I used to go to Black Heritage. My parents used to take us to Black Heritage, and I used to go to Hebrew school with my Jewish friends, which I loved, and they loved Black Heritage. So I had a little bit of an identity thing. I had to prove myself. So in trying to prove myself, I got involved with some people that really didn't care so much about me, but I thought they did. And I apologized for who I was, because I was a little embarrassed, because I came from this neighborhood, and some of the friends, maybe if they were not as well off, were kind of like, so you're a rich kid, and I said, oh, no, I can be cool, I can do this, I can hang, I can do all this. And so I would apologize for who I was and for where I came from. And don't let my light shine. No. Let me put myself in a little box so I can fit in, right? So in doing that, I kind of lost my core values, and I lost myself, and I would, smoke cigarettes and drink, all these things. I was just living this life where I was drained. I was completely drained. At 20 years old, I'm now 44. I felt like I was 44 when I was 22, and, vice versa. So now I feel like I'm in my 20s again. Thank goodness. So, but to get there was a struggle. So I got involved with some friends that my life felt like it was in a whirlwind, in a spin, and I lost my footing, and now it felt like someone shut off the lights, and all the light that my parents gave me, I couldn't find my way. So I had to figure out how I was going to get my feet back on the ground, and how I was going to get back home. Kind of like the Wizard of Oz. Kind of like Dorothy. That kind of thing. So I had to go on a little journey, and I did a lot of prayer. I had an aunt who was amazing. When I was younger, she was an astrologist, a clairvoyant. She used to read our charts. When we were 7 years old, she taught us the power of creative visualization and the power of positive thinking, and how your words mean something. And if you say negative things, they can actually manifest into negative things for your life. And this is what she taught us. And so she planted that seed when I was a very little girl. And so I found myself in this spiritual crisis, really. I was in a crisis, and I couldn't find my way. So who did I call? I called my aunt. And I told her I was involved in this very dark energy. I was with some people who were very, very dark. The lights were off, and I couldn't figure out how to get back to myself. So she said, well, what you need to do is you need to cleanse yourself. You need to cleanse. You need to start drinking lemon water. You need to start eating good foods. And you need to pray. And so that's what I did. And so that was like my Wizard of Oz, and I needed to figure